we stand ready to negotiate with the United States. Indeed, we have offered 0 for 0 tariffs for industrial goods.
So I want to start today's video by reading out what President Trump put on Truth Social this morning. So as you can see, the United States, when it comes to these tariffs, has a chance to do something that should have been done decades ago. Don't be weak, don't be stupid, don't be a panicking, right? A Republican who panics, a panicking, a new party based on weak and stupid people. Be strong, courageous, and patient, and greatness will be the result. Well, let's put that all to the test, because obviously you have a lot of people being weak, being stupid, and panicking over, let's say, the stock market. Oh, the stock market is taking a dip. Oh, people's 401ks are down to where they were back in 2024. This is the end of the world. And, you know, this is obviously something that is short term. Okay, markets rebound. Everything's going to be fine. The world is not ending. But you have a large cast of people who are unwilling to see the forest for the trees, right? They are simply only obsessed with the short-term prosperity and gain of the economy and not the country that future generations are ultimately going to inherit. Of course, finally, we have a president who is focused on long-term solutions and the actual rebuilding of America, not just kicking the can down the road and saying, hey, well, you know, future generations will inherit the gigantic crash when everything comes falling down. I'm going to be dead by then. Well, that type of leadership obviously is not how you build a sustained society. So that's certainly true. But here is the reality, is that already, as we've been reporting, we're starting to see the signs trending towards that greatness, right? What's happening to consumer prices? Well, despite all of the talk about how tariffs are going to be a tax on the consumer, you're actually seeing in many cases inflation going down, right? Inflation, as we covered in yesterday's video, inflation is down. Global crude oil prices are down to their lowest levels since 2021. Check your gas price in a couple of weeks as a result of that, you'll see, right? The price of eggs has rapidly dropped from where it was at the start of Trump's presidency. This is where it is headed. We also can talk about the jobs report, that despite all of the anticipation of Trump's tariffs, people are flabbergasted by this. But no, obviously, if you do protectionism, you're going to be creating more jobs here in the United States. But two major themes we want to focus on here today is, first and foremost, that we have yet more international global foreign leaders who are now caving to the tariff threat, right? That now they're offering, hey, Mr. Trump, can we come to the negotiating table? What can we do? And of course, we've been seeing this recurring theme that is very ironic for all of the free trade supporters. I don't know how they're going to come to comprehend this, but many countries, as a result of reciprocal tariffs, right? The concept of, hey, America's going to be treating you fairly and equally, are now suddenly realizing, hey, we don't really want tariffs. And so therefore, hey, America, would you like 0 tariffs, right? There's a long list now of countries that have offered a 0 tariff deal with the United States. And apparently, guys, the new set of nations that is joining in there might come out and surprise you. And guys, isn't it just so funny how that works, right? 1 second ago, I'm giving you a little spoiler here. 1 second ago, this international federation of states in a hemisphere very close to ours, right, came out and was saying, we're going to do retaliation. We're not going to accept this treatment from Trump. And like 2 days later, all of a sudden they're saying, oh, we are ready to negotiate. Who do you think that international entity of nations might be? Well, we'll tell you about that in today's video. But I also want to highlight the reason why it is happening. And the reason it is happening is because guess what? America is coming out of this a lot stronger than people perhaps realize. Of course, people are saying, oh, those jobs could never come back to the United States. Investment will never come to the United States. Well, guess what? The moment that we actually lay the law down, it turns out that is all happening. So we'll tell you all about that, guys. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy the content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. You subscribing is the best way to support our work. And let's continue our push to 500,000 subscribers. Gonna be there very soon. And with that said, let's just start with the obvious, okay? You know, we've heard a lot of talk about, well, Trump is naive to think that America can bring back its manufacturing because, hey, you know, even if they do, that's going to take a very long time. But as we covered actually yesterday, United Auto Workers Union leader Shawn Fain was pointing out, and that's a Democrat, by the way, but he was pointing out here that actually, no, that's not true, because especially when it comes to American auto manufacturing, America already has a lot of capacity. In fact, they have excess capacity. They just need the incentive to come produce here in the United States. Guess what? They have found that. And immediately this morning, we just heard apparently General Motors, obviously one of the largest auto companies in America, is announcing they will be increasing their truck production in Indiana in response to those tariffs. Isn't it funny how things work?
We were waiting to confirm this directly with General Motors, and now we have. And you tell me if this is already a sign that things are happening in President Trump's favor. A General Motors spokesperson is now confirming there was a webcast to employees a short time ago. GM will be making operational adjustments at its Fort Wayne assembly, including hiring temporary employees to support current manufacturing and business needs. We continuously update and revise production schedules as part of our standard process of evaluating and aligning to manage vehicle inventory. This after initially Reuters was reporting on that webcast that they're going to be adding overtime hours for their employees, and they're going to be bringing some of that. They're going to be increasing the production of their light duty trucks at that American.
Fabulous.
Yeah, well, as we covered in the last video, which I also encourage you to go watch, no wonder the Democrats are currently having an internal conflict on, hey, wait a minute, a lot of the auto unions, including UAW, seem to be in support of what is going on. And yeah, I was told, though, everything was falling down. The sky was falling when it came to the economy because, again, look at the stock market. There's going to be a recession. Okay, but what's the real life impact for Americans? More jobs are being created. Overtime pay is going up, so people are making more money. They're so desperate to increase their production here. They're even bringing in temporary labor to subsidize and help the main work, because they're basically saying we need to make in America and we're not even making enough. Let's hire more people. Let's create more jobs. Let's create more investment. And guys, this is a recurring theme that is not just exclusive to General Motors. We've been covering endless stories like every single week about how you have Honda and foreign car companies are opening new plants in the US. Of course, a recurring trend you've also seen is that a lot of tech companies, the future, I guess you could say, right? Tech companies, ever since Trump was elected, are announcing $100 billion investment, $200 billion, $300 billion, $1 trillion, trillions of dollars of investment to build new manufacturing, new data centers, new headquarters, et cetera, which creates jobs and money for the United States, has poured in ever since Trump became president. And let's be clear, that's not just because of Trump's haircut or something. No, that's specifically because of the threat of tariffs and the incentive that has created for companies to come here, manufacture, and do business in the United States. And again, this is a trend I think we've seen repeatedly over and over. You probably know all about it by now, but here's just a quick refresher on just some of the things we've been seeing in this direction, which again, I was told those jobs would never come back. That's impossible.
Thanks to our America First policies we're putting into place, we have had $1.7 trillion of new investment in America in just the past few weeks. The combination of the election and our economic policies that people of SoftBank, one of the most brilliant anywhere in the world, announced a $200 billion investment. OpenAI and Oracle, Larry Ellison, announced $500 billion investment, which they wouldn't have done if Kamala had won. Apple announced $500 billion investment. Tim Cook called me. He said, I cannot spend it fast enough. It's going to be much higher than that, I believe. They'll be building their plants here instead of in China. And just yesterday, Taiwan Semiconductor, the biggest in the world, most powerful in the world, has a tremendous amount, 97% of the market, announced a $165 billion investment to build the most powerful chips on earth right here in the USA.
By the way, I think that number is now at $5 trillion since that speech in investment in the US, which is more proof that tariffs are working, right? They are actually doing what they were designed to do. And on the front of the auto workers, which we've talked about extensively recently, another big topic of discussion here is the steel workers. This is another constituency. So auto workers are big in Michigan, obviously. Some other places, but mainly Michigan. Guess where steel is big? Pennsylvania. Okay, you remembering this now? Is it's not now all coming together? People say, oh no, Trump is losing people. He's turning on the very people who elected him. You keep hearing that narrative, of course. I'm going to ask a question. Any of you guys out there, do you know any Trump voters who are now regretting their vote? Because I haven't seen it. But nonetheless, okay, here's another constituency, the Pennsylvania steelworkers. And guess what? Promises are being made, promises are being kept, because that investment, that work is now coming back into the United States.
He accepted it, the endorsement, and I just wanted people to know that the steelworkers for Trump, I want people to know that all the steelworkers in the Mon Valley are for President Trump.
So, Glenn, I'm curious, typically union workers in your industry, we know them to endorse Democrats. Why Donald Trump this go around?
Well, historically, we've all been Democrats. A couple of us up here are third-generation steelworkers. And we had a trade case years ago that our ex-international president, Tom Conway, was fighting against the Chinese for illegal dumping. And when President Trump stepped in and he imposed those tariffs on the Chinese, I firmly believe that he saved the steel industry, not only in our country, but the Mon Valley, where many of us have lived for close to 30 years.
Andy, how about you? Why are you supporting Trump?
Well, number one is to protect the jobs in our valley. I'm a third generation steel worker. I've been through those layoffs. It's not fun. I've seen 3 mills shut down in the valley in the 80s. We have 3 mills left in the valley. I don't want to see those shut down. And he made a firm commitment when I asked him with a handshake, Mr. President, after the election, will you do what you can to keep our Mon Valley viable in the steel industry? He gripped my hand and confirmed to me through that handshake that he says, I will do that.
Yeah, well, isn't that a very interesting perspective on the tariffs and on the protectionist policy and on the reciprocal trade policy, by the way, that you're not often hearing, right? All we hear is, oh, Wall Street is doing badly, private equity is doing badly, and Trump's losing support. But wait a minute, the people who elected him asked for this. Interesting, right? Nonetheless, here is the problem that foreign nations are facing as a result of it. Of course, we keep hearing all this rhetoric like, oh, there's going to be retaliation in trade policy. That'll be so bad. Well, funny how that works. Because as I've long made the argument, guys, these other nations, in most cases, need America more than America needs them. And they're ultimately going to be coming here to the negotiating table. And here's just a great example, okay? Side by side. April 3rd, 2025. You would never believe it, because we've already talked about how Vietnam and Cambodia and India and Israel and Taiwan, as of yesterday, and some countries like that, how they have now caved essentially, right? They're coming out and offering zero tariff agreements with the United States. But you know who I thought would never see the day? The European Union, okay? The EU, the wokest, most anti-Trump, globalist institution you could possibly find. This might surprise you, actually. So on April 3rd, the European Union has come out in response to Trump's tariffs, saying there will be countermeasures with immense consequences. This is a recurring theme, obviously. Everyone wants to be the tough guy, okay? EU wants to be the tough guy. Canada wants to be the tough guy. Oh, but wait a minute. 4 days later, according to the EU's guy right here, we are ready to negotiate with the US on tariffs. And apparently, guys, this has translated them to now offering absolutely zero tariffs on the United States in the, following the same pattern that has been done by nations like Taiwan and Vietnam. Take a listen for yourself.
We stand ready to negotiate with the United States. Indeed, we have offered 0 for 0 tariffs for industrial goods, as we have successfully done with many other trading partners, because Europe is always ready for a good deal, so we keep it on the table.
Really funny how that works. In similar news out of the continent, let's talk about the UK, right? The UK, you might remember, some people seem to forget this, but the UK is no longer part of the European Union, okay? Remember Brexit and all that? Well, apparently, in other news, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, okay, so this guy, let's keep in mind, he's from the Labour Party. He is a very annoying and obnoxious and pretentious leftist. But interestingly here, he came out and apparently is going to declare that globalization has failed and plans to show that he understands President Trump's tariff decision. This announcement is set to come on Monday, according to the Times. Quote, globalization doesn't work for a lot of working people. We don't believe trade wars are the answer, but this is a chance to show that there's a different path, Starmer said, according to the Times. Trump has done something we don't really agree with, but there's a reason why people are behind him on this. The world has changed and globalization is over, and we are now in a new era. A Downing Street official said, according to the outlet. Oh, wow. Well, isn't that funny, right? So, and then what is this all about? Because Keir Starmer really wants to make a deal. That's interesting. He probably also is, struggling after leaving the EU because the establishment in UK has massively screwed up the way they handled Brexit, right? I still think Brexit was a good idea, but the way instead of going to the nationalistic route, they basically just left the EU and then didn't find an alternative. So that's probably why right now they're, hey, let's make a deal with Trump. Let's make a deal with the Americans. We need an alternative market. So whatever it is, okay, I don't really care. But I just find that to be so hilarious. This leftist sleazeball is now saying, oh, the world has changed. Globalization is over. Gee, you don't say. It's almost like Trump is in command here. It's almost like he's actually in control. But all right, with that said, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new. And until next time, God bless and peace.